This is the EVP Podcast.
Next morning is when we saw that paranormalist.
David Merlin.
And that, man, we were like in a hurry to get there, wanting breakfast, and we picked the stupidest things.
Oh my god. Hey, look, there's
an Einstein.
There's an Einstein.
Look, there's a long ass line.
Oh, Cinnabon's right next to it. Let's go to Cinnabon. Krispy Kreme.
Krispy Kreme.
So we got a Krispy Kreme.
But we want sustenance. But Krispy Kreme being top heavy as we are.
The fat guys united and got Krispy Kreme. We finished eating our donuts, walk around the corner.
Regretting it, thinking, man, I wish there was better options.
Right. So we throw our trash away, walk around the corner, and there's the breakfast burger place.
It's called Breakfast Burger.
Yeah, and then there's another breakfast. Schlotzsky's right there also serving, and they had like short lines.
Sustenance.
They had like real food and short lines, and we're like, God, we're stupid.
Like, ho, ho, ho.
Fat guy power took over. Krispy Kreme it is.
Right? Oh, regret tastes good in Vegas.
Man.
But it wasn't a bad regret taste.
Oh, it was delicious.
I've had worse regret taste in
Krispy
Vegas.
Kreme. all that cream coming out of my donuts, getting stuck in my beard.
It was stuck all over your face.
Yeah. So we get there, and it's funny because he had told us the day before, like, the show's supposed to start at 10:15. He usually waits until like 10:30 to give people time to wander in.
Right.
And I thought that was funny because this lady sitting next to us like had saved like 4 or 5 spots, and none of her friends actually showed up to it.
Oh damn!
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, like off to my
I
right-hand
saw
side, it
those.
was just the one lady.
Yeah.
When we got there, she had like shit on like 4 or 5 chairs, saving chairs, and none of her friends showed up.
Damn.
And I heard her complaining like at 10:16, like, isn't this supposed to start at 10:15? And I'm just laughing to myself because I knew he said he was going to start at 10:30.
You're all, aren't you waiting for your friends?
That show was amazing though. Like, I've seen illusionists. Like, there's a guy called named Darren Brown. You can watch he's got like 3 different shows on Netflix. I highly recommend them. They're actually really fascinating.
I am going to watch those. I have heard lots of
So
good things.
Darren Brown is a mentalist, and he has an episode where he did things similar to what this guy did. Some of the stuff was similar. A lot of it was different. But he comes out and starts his act, and he's not saying a word. So I'm like, is this going to be a silent act? This is weird. But he gets in a box and cuts himself in half.
And being as close as we were,
I made sure we got the front row. This is how like nerdy I am. I'm like, we're getting front row. Like, I ran fucking down the hall because this is a big ass room, like
that's a huge
hundreds of chairs, and I ran to the front. And I'm like, we're sitting in the front, damn it.
And I mean, being that close, you could hear everything. So I could hear what he's doing, and I could tell I could tell exactly how he did that illusion.
Well, and I've seen that illusion. Other people done it before, and you can see like when he opened the bottom box to show his legs after he like cut himself in half. You could see it was fake.
Right.
I mean, being up that close, you could see that it was fake. The legs were fake.
And then seeing his shoes there, I could tell that he slipped his feet out. And then I saw his shoes later. They don't have backs to them.
Yeah, we looked at his shoes later, and there's no back, so it's easier for him to slip out. So
Croc-like. Croc-like.
And I think that's like the only one we didn't figure out how he was doing.
That's
the only one we did figure out. Because after that, it was like he put a dye in a cup.
It ramped up. It definitely ramped up. So when I saw that at first, I'm like, for real? Is this what this is going to be? Some corny ass magic tricks?
I was just like, just wait. I'm like, just wait.
I knew it had to get better.
I didn't say that to you really, but I was thinking it.
And I was thinking, really? So after that, he goes to the dice, and he's doing this thing where people...
He has them put the die in the cup, and he has them rotate it back and forth to mix it up so you don't know what the number is.
And only they look inside to see what number it is.
Yeah, they'd have him peek in real quick and then cover it back up so no one could see what's inside.
And he
started out with like... talking about like psychics and stuff, and asked how many of us were skeptics towards psychics, and like everybody raised their hand, including both of us. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about how like a lot of these people can cold read, and so what he did with the first person is he counted 1 through 6, and based on that person's reaction as he was counting, he was able to determine what the number in the cup was. And then the next person, he did the same thing, except he had that person count. And again, by cold reading, he was able to figure out what the number was.
I tried it, and I got that one right.
Yeah, you did.
because I was reading his face too, and there was something, so I could see how they can do that, but then he lost me. Lost me.
The first two, like, it's kind of easy, like, to see how we would do it because the person makes a different face, and the second person probably made a face, and like I think their voice changed a little bit when they got to their number, which I think that one was 2. Was the second one? I can't remember.
No, I think from there he went to, okay, I'm gonna count, and then I want you to tell me no to every answer.
Oh yeah, he did that one where he's like, say no to every answer.
Yeah, and then
that's the one where I heard where the no was different on the
pitch.
one. It was a different pitch.
And that's what I was listening to, and I got it wrong. I was trying to find it. You got that one right, but I missed that one.
And then there was one where we both got it wrong.
Yeah.
I think you said 1 and I said 1, you said 5.
And it was 6.
And it was 6.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so together we got it right.
Yeah, if you add our answers up, we were right. We teamwork on that one.
I think the next part was the one he did with me. I can't remember what he did after the dice.
I can't remember either. But no, he was doing that one where he was pulling cards that had shapes like square, cross, circle, wave.
That was towards the end.
Was it towards the end?
That was like right before the levitation.
Oh, okay. So then the book thing.
I think it was the book thing.
So you had a book, and you had to choose out of 2 books. You chose one of the books.
Yeah. So he held up The Shining and Harry Potter's The Goblet of Fire, and I picked The Shining, and he's like, "Oh, you're one of those weirdos," and I'm like, "Yes, yes, sir, I am." And he's like, because at first he was like, "We need people with good eyesight." And he picked me
because your glasses.
Because my glasses. And I'm sitting in the front row, and I thought he's like picking. He's like, "No, you." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, okay." He's like, "Do you have good eyesight?" And I'm like, "When my glasses are on."
And how he talked about not having plants in the audience. Boom! Here you are.
Here I am.
Planted in the audience.
I was planted in the audience. He's like, "Have we met before?" And I'm like, "No." Well, sort of.
Kinda.
No, we haven't.
Kinda yesterday when you told me that you're not going to have any plants in the audience, and here I am.
Which I mean. I think he knew that I was kind of skeptical, and I'm glad this is the one he chose me for.
Me too.
Because
me too.
I was like super skeptical about, like, I know I said he didn't have plants. I was not a plant. I can guarantee you this. And so he has me pick the book. I picked The Shining, and he had some other lady at the same time
pick a
magazine from like 5 different magazines, and he had us kind of thumb through them, making sure that they were not like setups or anything like that. It was the actual book. It was the actual Shining by Stephen King, and she had the magazines, and she picked one of the 5 magazines. I flipped through the book, and then he told me to just pick a random page. So I literally just opened it and ran my thumb through it, and then just stopped on the page. And I didn't even tell him page number. Like, I've seen other people do this illusion, and they ask for page number. He didn't ask for page number or anything. He's like, stop, pick a paragraph on that page. And what was weird for me is, like, as I was picking the paragraph, I don't know if you noticed this, like, I just kind of put my hand over the book, and I let the energy just guide me. Like, I let my guides pick the word for me, basically. So I let my hand was kind of drawn to a paragraph, and before he even told me what word to pick a word, I had already had the word picked out. I did exactly what he said, and like pick the largest word in the paragraph that you can find.
Nice.
And it was a pretty damn big word.
Yeah, it was.
So I picked the word, and I know you leaned over real quick, and I don't know if you took a picture of the word or not.
I was taking a picture of you with the book and him on the stage. So
okay.
So that I'll send you those, so you have those in your memories.
So yeah, I had the word. I know you looked over real quick and saw what the word was. I had the book kind of up, so only you and I could really see the word. Had my finger underneath it. He's got this lady picking a word out of the magazine, and with her, he said, like, the word before your word is only 2 letters, right? And he's like, one of the letters is
At first, I thought he was. What kind of got me is I thought maybe you both picked the same word.
That would have been funny.
That's what I thought, because your word had a prefix to that. So when he was talking about, is there a word before the word? And she's all, yeah. I was like, oh, you guys have the same word.
But yeah, with her, like, he ended up just straight up guessing your word is independence. And she's like, yeah, that is. With me, he wrote it down.
He didn't even ask you anything about your word.
Just the first letter.
Did he? Oh, he did ask you.
Yeah, remember, he's like, what's the first letter? And I go, P. And he looks at his paper, and he looks at me, and he looks at his paper, and he looks at me, and he goes, that's correct. and like, everybody started laughing, and I'm like, well, yeah, it's fucking correct. I just told you that's what it was.
I remember that. So
that's all he asked me about the word, is what the first letter was.
And he already wrote it down.
I think he had already written it down at that point, yeah.
Yeah, because he had already written it down. That's right. And he goes, what's the first letter? And
Yeah.
you said it, and he's looking at it. You're correct.
But
I forgot about that.
when he kept bouncing back and forth between me and the lady, every time he looked at me, he's like, just think of that word, focus nothing on that word. He's like, send me that word. And I did, like, the whole time, every time he said that, the only word was in my head. I just kept saying it over and over again in my head, saying that word. And finally, when it gets to the time for the reveal, he goes, in a loud voice so everyone can hear you, because the microphone was like back with the other lady. He's like, say what your word is. And I yell out, predetermined. And right as I yelled it out, as soon as I finished saying it, he turned his notebook around, and sure shit, it was written on the notebook, predetermined. And I think it's funny because the word, literally was predetermined, but it wasn't predetermined.
Right?
It's not like him and I talked about this beforehand. He's like, all right, I want you to pick this word on this page. Like, I literally just thumbed through the book and just stopped on a random page.
And that was mind-blowing, like, seeing that happen, because I thought maybe he had only written down hers, not knowing that he had written down your word as well, and not asking you anything besides that one question. Like,
yeah.
That was because he asked her quite a few questions.
Yeah, all he asked me was what the first letter was, and then every time he looked at me, he's like, just send me the word. And it's funny, like, I know that this is actually possible because Brandy and I have done this to each other where we think about something, and then it makes the other person start thinking about it. Brandy's done that with me quite a bit, where we're both looking at the bell, and it's like, it's too far. I don't want to ding, ding.
Yeah, ding.
But she's done it to me a couple times where, like, she's focused on a certain object at the store, like a salt lamp. And I'm like, the salt lamp was on the bottom shelf, and I'm looking up the top shelf because I'm tall. And all of a sudden, I'm just like, zoom in on the salt lamp on the bottom, and she just looks at me and starts laughing because that's the one she wanted me to look at. Like, it wasn't even in my peripheral. I wasn't even thinking about it because I'm looking at the top shelf, and all of a sudden I'm looking at this one on the bottom shelf. And there's been a couple times where, like, we're looking for something to eat. Like, we're trying to decide where to go for her birthday. And I thought this one was actually interesting because I think she had already pulled up the menu on her phone. And out of the blue, I just decided to pull up a menu on my phone. And she's like, you know where we should go for my birthday dinner? And I'm like, where? And she's like, Market Street Grill, and shows me she has it on her phone. And I'm like, are you shitting me right now? And she's like, what? And I turned my phone over, and we were both, without talking to each other, looking at Market Street Grill's menu. And then there was another time where she wanted dessert. And she hadn't even asked me about dessert, hadn't even said anything out loud about dessert. I'm on DoorDash looking for desserts, and I find this, like, gourmet cheesecake place in Sandy. And she's like, what should we do for dessert? I kind of want cheesecake. And I'm like, funny that you mentioned cheesecake. I just found this cheesecake restaurant.
I could go on forever about all that, the multiple times that happens to me. Like,
so, I mean, in my opinion, it's entirely possible to send your thoughts to somebody else. And I think in this case, I don't have an explanation for it other than I actually telepathically sent this dude the word. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
It was pretty wild.
He did
something with these people's names where he had us all give a name. I can't remember. It was a long one. It was kind of long.
This was the chalkboard one.
Oh,
so he had 12 names.
Oh shit! Yes,
he had 6 men, 6 women.
Okay, this shit was weird.
And he had because we were on the front row, so we each got a name, and we just read out the last name. We didn't say if it was a male or female. We just read the last name. We all crumpled up our things and put it in a bag, and then he had someone completely different pick a name out. And he asked what...
He had an empty box first.
He had an empty...
And a chalkboard. And then he put the chalk... He took the empty box around, and it was a USPS box.
Yeah,
so it was
and
just
he had several people look at it, and like everyone verified that it was empty. There was nothing...
And same with the chalkboard. Puts the chalkboard in there, puts a box of chalk, not even a loose piece, just a box of chalk in there, seals it up, and sets it on the table. Does not touch it. Yeah.
And then he has someone else pick a name out of there, and I guess he had her say, like, the first letter.
The first letter of the last.
Of the first name.
Of the first name, yes.
Yeah, and all she said was E. Like, or I think she said the last name, too. She said the last name first, because we had all said the last name. Mm-hmm. And then she said the first name, didn't say if it was a man or a woman. But it was funny, because when she said E, I'm like, I thought it was like Elaine. Mm-hmm. And I told you that. Right. I was totally wrong on the name, but I was right on the gender because you have a 50-50 chance of getting it right. But after he does this, he has a different woman come up on the stage, and he handed her a bell.
Oh yeah, why am I forgetting this?
And he's like, if there's a spirit, he's like, we're gonna summon the spirit. And
I wanted to examine that bell. I wish I would have been able to see the bell, but it seemed normal. He's shaking it, and it's just ringing like normal.
yeah,
Gives it to her to hold.
yeah, and he like asks the spirit, like, if you hear it, come ring the bell, and it's like not doing anything. So he goes to walk away, and as soon as he goes to walk away, the bell starts ringing, and he looks back and
The girl's freaking out.
yeah, she's freaking out. He's like, "Did you do that?" And she's like, "No." And you could see it like physically moving in her hand, and you could tell she wasn't
see
shaking.
the thing like move.
And you can tell she wasn't doing it.
Right.
And then so when he verifies that the spirit is there, he's like, "Well, write your name on the chalkboard." And before like he actually started putting like the microphone next to the box, like
You were already hearing it.
I tapped you. I'm like, "Do you hear the chalk moving?"
Yeah, and I was like, wait a minute. And I'm like leaning in, and then he puts the microphone up to it, and you can hear chalk.
I pointed it out. I'm like, the chalk's moving, and then he goes like, he's like, wait a second. He like stops, and he's like, it's moving, and he puts the microphone, and you can hear the chalk writing on the chalkboard. So he tells him to write her name. He tells the spirit to write their name, and then he ends up getting like a deck of cards. Well, that's the other thing. We missed the whole like the 4 queens.
Oh yeah,
That
was a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot. But this is the cool one.
Yeah,
we're
this
just
was
kind of
cool.
hitting the really cool ones. But he had a deck of cards. Showed us it was a brand new deck of cards. Nothing fishy about it. Has someone pick a random card and look at it, and she didn't tell anybody. And
yeah.
he's like, okay, spirit, can you write down what card this person's holding? And then you hear the chalk moving again, and then so. He before he opens the box and pulls out the chalkboard, he's like, "What's the name?" And the lady says Edna, and then he's like, "What's the card?" And the lady's like, 3 diamonds, and he's like, "Okay." Right after they say what the name and the card was, he opens it up, pulls out the chalkboard, and really big across the top it says Edna, and then there's a 3 and a picture of a diamond. And
Yeah,
I was just like, "That's awesome."
It's too crazy because. Thinking, okay, maybe there's something when he set it on the table. Maybe there's something moving underneath. There's like magnet under the table moving, as well as a magnet and a piece of chalk. But even if there was, knowing that person's card and knowing the first person, like
knowing the name that was picked, like out of 12 different names.
Yeah,
and I'm sure there was more than one name that had an E for the first name.
Just wild. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He's been doing this.
Like he had a mirror that he said was from Amityville. I don't know if it actually was or not.
Don't know.
But the fact that he was able to like
put his hand.
I can't figure out how he put his arm all the way through it. Even Brian Cano, like him and I talked about that, and he's like, "That's amazing." Brian Cano was actually there for the psychic, like the predetermined.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, Brian Cano said he saw that, and he's like, that was awesome.
But
the really cool one, and I'll let you talk about this one because I've been talking a lot, but the really cool one was the very last illusion that he did.
Okay, and I was not expecting this at all.
I didn't know where he was going with it.
I didn't know where he was going. So he has this giant crate sitting on a flat...
like a little flatbed, or just
flatbed roller, so 4 wheels on it and just wheels around. Anyways, because I mean that's how you got to move this damn big crate around. He pulls out. I mean, it looks like a step stool, and then pulls out another like taller stool, but they're kind of square iron bar built.
Yeah,
and they're both skinny, and one's short, one's tall.
Basically, like a little step ladder.
That's really all he used it as. He gets on the smaller one, gets on the bigger one, and then climbs inside the crate. And he's standing in the crate. I didn't know what to expect as he's standing in this crate. Next thing you know,
well, he crouched down, so all you could see was his head and like his shoulders. Like all you see is his head.
Yeah, so he like gets low, and his head's still, and his arms are kind of up above the top of the box, and the whole damn thing just lifts up off the damn flat
and
roller.
It didn't go just straight up. It started like rotating, like spinning and like rocking back and forth.
And I was so awestruck. I did not pull out my phone and
we're both
recording.
just sitting there like, oh my God.
I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, when he finished, we're both just like, damn it.
I'm looking for cords. I'm looking for anything that could have attached to like hoist it up in the air. I couldn't see anything. And he did this on America's Got Talent.
Yeah, he was on America's Got Talent, and you can also see some of his stuff on davidmerlin.com, I think it is. Or just Google his name, David Merlin. You can find his stuff.
Probably a bunch of YouTube videos, too.
Yeah, I'm sure you can find YouTube videos because, like you said, it was on America's Got Talent. So you can watch some of the videos of the stuff that he's done. The levitation he's done on.
Yeah, he's
American
done that
Got
on
Talent.
TV.
So you can see the levitation on.
We were like
front row.
15 feet away from this.
We weren't that far away, and we're both just like.
I wish I would have recorded that.
Yeah.
Because it pissed me off because when I thought of it, he was already bringing it down. I was like scrambling to like pull out my. Oh my god!
That would have been awesome to like throw up.
By the time my phone was in my hand and out, it was back on the thing. I was like, ugh.
And that was the best part about Saturday, and then we were done. I'm just kidding. No, that's when we went and I had like the really nice conversation with Brian Cano while you guys were at the UFO panel.
Because so we talked. I forgot about this. At the end of the night, the first night on Friday night, we were talking to Chuck. Zukowski, I think is his last name. He's the one from Alien Highway and UFO Hunters. He's the older dude that pretty much runs everything. Like he kind of pretty much running the show.
He's another person. I have no idea who he was, but he knew us and he wanted to take a picture with us.
That dude was really cool. I mean, we were talking a lot about like Utah and the stuff going on in the skies in Utah, kind of talking to him about some of the experiences.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to ask him about Skinwalker Ranch, and I didn't get a chance to.
Oh, damn. We were sitting there talking to him forever. You should have.
Yeah, I know. I totally spaced it.
And then he was talking about, like, all these other bases I didn't know about. And then, because we're big, we go way back. We're talking about fishing. We're talking about fishing stuff and guns and fishing. And then he definitely wants to be on the show, though.
Yeah. We were telling him about the podcast, and he's like, "Well, I'm not a guest on the show," and we're like, "We can fix that."
So yeah, we're gonna have a
try
phone
to get
call
him
with
on the
him.
show. Yeah,
he does want to do the show. We'll call him in. We'll do a show with him and all about UFOs. That's gonna be badass.
Yeah. So look for that to come up sometime next year.
But anyways, we went to his panel and he was talking about a lot of cool stuff, a lot of UFO stuff. I'm not getting into too much about the stories, but I liked a lot, like this dude's personality, his like.
Yeah, he was a really cool guy.
I mean, I seen him a bunch of times on TV, and he's just like a really down to earth dude, and
yeah, he was
kind of like how he acts on TV. But I mean, on TV, he's like more like investigative and wanting to like learn and do stuff. And then he was kind of telling us about behind the scenes stuff and kind of some of the things he had to do with the shows and some of the things the shows doesn't even like put on air, and which some of it was like more of the fascinating things. And then come to find out how he was talking about what Travel Channel, their demographic is like.
Yeah, like 15 to
25-year-olds.
Something like that, like 15 to like 20-year-olds or somewhere in there.
And I'm laughing.
Like everybody else's demographic is like older, like us.
Well, Travel Channel before was like your 30 to 60-year-old demographic.
Yeah, which is like Discovery and all the other channels.
And
like
that's
what
one of the
going
things
for.
I loved Travel Channel before, even when I was in my teens and 20s. And now it is a little dumbed down.
Yeah, it's basically like he's saying some of those shows are directed towards like naive kids that are just going to believe in everything.
Right.
Or like some of the other shows are directed more towards people
that like the loud reactions.
Yeah.
The Nickelodeon and Disney Channel kids.
Yeah.
If you think about those shows, Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, like after our age group grew up, those millennials watching that, if you look at any of those shows, they're all screaming in all those shows. All the kids are screaming and yelling when they talk, and everything's big reactions. So when you think about the shows that are on now and the big reactions, okay,
that makes sense.
Who's the fans? Nickelodeon kids.
Yeah, pretty much. So Saturday, I made us walk around so celebrities could find us and get pictures with us.
Yes, that's pretty much what.
That was most of Saturday.
After the panels that we wanted to see, that was kind of.
We did one more panel that Brian Cano personally invited us to come attend.
Exactly.
And we're not being facetious on this one. I'm sure
and
you've all picked up on
any of the other ones.
Our running joke where everybody knows it. Like Brian actually is like, hey, at this time I'm going to be on a panel. You guys should really come check it out. So we did.
Yeah, we should actually get Brian on the show too.
I'm sure we can probably arrange that.
We need to get Brian on the show, and he's got a podcast.
Yeah, 3 Geeks Senate. They talk about comics and movies and stuff like that.
And I need to subscribe to that one.
Yeah, it's actually cool. It's like him and a couple of his buddies. It's a cool podcast. Y'all should check it out. But yeah, we went to that panel, and
they were talking.
It was like they had like Steve Gonzalez, they had Susan Slaughter, Brian Cano, and two others.
Shane Pittman, who is on that Holzer Files with Dave Schrader. And then Dave Schrader announcing all the panels.
Yeah. And then some other dude. He's on some of the shows. I think he did something with Holzer Files too.
No, he was on Ghost Lab.
Oh, okay. I don't know what that is, but
that show was on a long time ago. It was these two brothers that were like Chicago cops, I think.
Okay.
It was a long time ago. I think there was maybe like 2 seasons tops.
But yeah, that one was just a Q&A one as well. And it started out with like the guy that was like introducing all the panelists and asking questions, and then it just got into audience questions.
He's a journalist, and he somehow got into like paranormal journalism somehow.
Yeah, I mean, he seemed like a really cool guy too.
Yeah, he's very well spoken.
I know a lot of like Brian did go over what he told us about the paranormal caught on tape because someone else asked that same question that we did.
Yeah,
and he talked about it there again on the panel, and they talked about like collecting evidence and sharing evidence. And this is what got me thinking, because I was actually thinking about asking this question, and they just kind of brought it up because I have that video from Asylum 49 from like 3 or 4 years ago that I haven't really showed anybody because I don't want it to be. Basically, I didn't want people to look at it and like try to tear it apart because I know what I see, and I'm like, it's good enough for me. But something that they said that makes me want to actually throw this video up on YouTube and show everybody is they kind of almost felt like it's selfish to not share evidence with people, and you know, it kind of hurts the paranormal community if you're not sharing your evidence, so we can't like see what people are gathering and collecting. And so I'll probably throw that up here within the next week or so. I know you've seen it. I've shown it to you a couple times. And this last time when I went through, because I knew about one thing that happened in the video, and then I found something new last month rewatching the video that I'd never seen before. And this is one that, like, when I do post a video, if you do go to watch it, do not watch it on your cell phone. Tablet maybe, but you do want to watch this on a computer. You want to watch this on a large screen or you're going to miss it. But yeah, hearing them all say that, where basically like they almost felt like you should be sharing your evidence instead of keeping it to yourself. That's kind of, it was a question that I had, and it's like right as I was thinking about that question, they all started talking about it. So I'm like, okay, this is my sign. I need to share this. I need to share this video. So that will be up sometime soon this week. But yeah, you can see that, and if I might turn off commenting on the video so people can just watch it, and if you want to private message us or email us or whatever, that'd be fine. But I really don't just want like random people coming on and just like tearing apart my video. That's like my biggest fear, because I know what I see. I mean, it was me shooting the video. I know what I saw.
I mean, you don't have to worry about anybody trying to tear it apart. You had your experience, and you're not saying what it is. You're just putting it there just to show it for what it is.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say what I'm gonna let people watch it, and if no one sees what happens, then I'm sorry, then they don't see what happens. But I'm not gonna explain too much about the video, other than the reason why I cut it the way I did is because I wanted people to see like who was in my group and how close we were together when we started walking down this hallway. And then you'll see what happens in the video, or you won't see it maybe, but
I didn't see it until you pointed it out, because I wasn't looking in that direction.
Yeah, and there was someone else I showed it to. The first time I showed it to them, they saw what I saw, and I didn't have to point it out to them. So I'll get that up, and people can decide for themselves what they see and what they don't see. But yeah, after hearing that, I was just kind of like, yeah, I should share my evidence.
Yeah, you should.
Which means I should probably start going through a lot of my old stuff and getting it up.
When they did mention, because there's a lot of times where people send videos and pictures of orbs, and orbs are just such a waste of time.
Yeah, and they said like how they.
But it was funny the way, because like light anomalies, you can tell a lot of times when it's like a lens flare, and the way it follows the camera movement. And some people will show videos, and in the video the camera is moving up and down, and same with the light flare, it follows the camera. And they're like, "Oh my God, do you see this?"
Yeah, I saw someone doing that like live on TikTok.
They're just like, "Oh my God!" And then they show that video to like somebody in this field, and they're like, look at this video of this orb, and they look at the video and like, that's a light anomaly, like, and they point it out, and they're like, then the person who was showing the video is just heartbroken.
Yeah, because they're like, for the last 4 years, I thought it was my mom, or I thought it was my grandma, and so they kind of got to the point where they like stopped telling people what was in the. They're like, oh, that's cool.
They just stopped looking at those and stopped analyzing those videos. Cause
I did like another thing that Steve Gonzalez, about like when someone says they had an experience, and he's just kind of like, cool.
I want that experience.
Like, I want to see that too. Like, I believe that you believe you had the experience, but unless I see it, like, I don't know if it really happened or not. You know
right.
what I mean?
Like, that's cool that you had that. I want to have that.
There's so many things that happen when you go out and investigate that pareidolia plays a big factor in a lot of the stuff, especially like orbs, where if you don't know what pareidolia is, it's just your mind is trying to make sense out of chaos.
Well,
basically.
it will try to make faces out of chaos.
Yeah, so it's basically like, the best example I can give you is when you look up in the clouds and you see shapes.
Yes.
That's pareidolia. Where your mind is basically, you got all this chaotic stuff going on and your mind's just trying to make sense of it. And so it's trying to put faces or just whatever's familiar to you in this situation. Mm-hmm. And that's why he recommended that you never investigate alone, amongst many other reasons.
Safety being
the biggest one. But if two people are there and they witness the same thing, it's more believable than if you're just there by yourself.
Right. So, yeah.
They had a lot of good information on that panel.
Yeah, that was pretty informative, and it was kind of making you see different perspectives of things too, which was pretty cool.
It was fun. Like, I think it was after the panel, we went and talked to Josh Gates.
I was showing him pictures and videos of Balut.
Yep. And then
he's all getting grossed out.
And then out of the blue, you just look at him and you're like, "Hey, take a picture with us." You didn't ask him or anything. You're just like, "You're taking a picture with us."
Dance, monkey, dance.
Yeah, pretty much. And he like didn't really care that's how it went down.
Well, I mean,
because he's like, it's the EVP podcast. I got to take.
I know. Duh. I should have been asking you guys.
This is like right after we like gave him our card, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll definitely listen to the show."
And after I'm telling him the wrong show.
So, Josh, if you listen to the show, we're sorry we told you the wrong show. I don't know that he's going to listen, but if he does, that's really cool.
I hope so.
If he hits us up on Instagram, he's like, "Guys, I listened."
And I wish you didn't say anything about Kermit.
Yeah, he's going to rip us a new one. I'm just like, it was all Ghosty's fault.
I'm a big fan, though.
And he'll be like, "Which one's Ghosty?" And I'll be like, "I don't know. The one that wasn't here." We'll blame it on DVO.
So yeah, we talked to him for a little bit, and then we got pictures with a bunch of other people.
We talked to Ben Hansen for a little bit. We talked to Dave Schrader for a little bit.
Dave Schrader.
Ben Hansen, like, he knows us.
He's local.
He's local. He lives in Long Beach now, but he's from Utah. And we actually used to work with his brother, who's on a different podcasting network and show.
And our old team.
We've investigated several times with Ben. Our old team, the guy that started our old team, was actually
that founder and him worked.
They worked together in the police department before Ben went off to the FBI. So we've done a lot of stuff with Ben.
Yeah.
So it was really cool seeing him and catching up to him, and he gave us a lot of good advice about starting a convention as well.
Yeah, didn't know that his family does the PrepperCon.
I knew that.
I did not.
I knew
he
did the PrepperCon, and PrepperCon is huge. If you don't know what PrepperCon is, it's basically for preppers,
doomsday preppers,
and out here in Utah, we have the Mountain America Expo Center, and there's like 5 different like event rooms.
They take up.
I think for PrepperCon, they take up like 3 or 4 of them actually. They take up almost the whole convention center.
I can see that now. I can definitely see that now.
They do at least. I think they do at least 3, if not like the whole thing, the whole building. It's huge out here.
They do a good job at that,
and they do a great job with that. Yeah. So I mean, this is someone that's experienced in doing conventions, giving us good advice on how to properly do a convention.
And then who else? Oh, so making fun of the Ghost Brothers like we do.
Oh, we made fun of the Ghost Brothers so much. They were really cool. I actually forced
so they're funny.
You're like, I don't want to get in their line. Their line's long, and I'm like, there's 3 people in line, dude.
It's 3 people longer than I want to wait.
So we got in their line, and it was that.
Well, so they sell a product, their own product, and it's pumpkin spice pancake mix. They knew the way to my heart.
Yeah, they knew you were a white chick from Utah.
That I'm basic as fuck. And so the only way to my heart was through pumpkin spice, and they knew it.
And what's funny is I don't like pumpkin spice, but I got one anyways because it's Ghost Brothers pancake mix. And the funny thing is what I thought was really cool at first, and I don't know if they were just making fun of me, and I don't really care because it was hilarious. I pick up a box of the little tub of the pancake mix, and underneath the lid, there's a big dent in the side.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want this one. It's dented.
Girl, can I get one that's not dented? And
they made a big deal about it. They searched. They looked through 4 or 5 of them before they found the perfect one for me.
They're like, look, signed it perfectly for you.
They're they were showing me how the lids on all of them had a line going down around the top of the lid. And he's like, look, you even got one that doesn't have a line on the lid. And I'm just like, I felt like such a jackass, but I thought it was really cool, how they just kind of joked around about it and were funny about it.
So I could see how they're funny outside of investigating.
Oh, they're hilarious. These guys were really cool.
Yeah, I could see how hanging out with them when at these events with other celebrities hanging out with each other, I could see how they would want to hang out with them.
It's funny, is
funny as hell.
Out of all the booths, they usually had a pretty long line.
They had a long line the whole because the demographic and the being loud thing that
and
draws
the pumpkin
attention.
Spice was bringing
and
in
then
all
the pumpkin spice brought in all the white chicks.
White chicks
lined up for days. I was there.
It was
getting
funny,
pumpkin spice.
Yeah, we were but they took pictures with us and.
Yeah, so we took a picture with them.
Super cool. And you can see all these pictures on our social media.
Yeah, we just posted them all this morning.
I think there's still a couple that we can post. Instagram won't let us crop certain pictures, so we might just throw them just on Facebook.
Yeah.
But there's still a couple other pictures that we can post, like the me picking the book, and then we got a picture with the whole Ghost Hunters team. On top of the ones that we kind of stole, because we went to the Josh Gates panel, we saw Jason Haas standing there, and we're like, "Hey, dude, take a picture with us." And he's like, "All right." And it was really cool because it was funny walking around outside of the convention, going to get lunch and stuff,
seeing celebrities.
Jason Haas coming up the escalator, and he's like, "How's it going, guys?"
Yeah, he said hi to us a few times.
He did. One of my favorites though was this is after we got the pancake mix. One of the Ghost Brothers was.
Down in the food court?
Down in the food court, and he saw us. He's like, "Hey, what's happening, guys?"
No, I've seen him as we were passing by. I'm like, "What's up, bro?" He's like, "Hey."
Yeah.
And then, who else did we hang out with? Oh, so the Destination Fear kids. So you didn't know who they were. I explained to you.
You explained, you tried to show me some of the clips while we were driving.
So this show started because this kid was making spoof videos of Ghost Adventures, making fun of Zach and doing all that. And then, of course, because it went viral, the whole Ghost Adventure seen it, and they were watching all his videos. They brought him on the show, made him actually part of the video crew, and then eventually he pitched a show, and they took it. And so it's him, his sister, and his best friend, and they do these lockdowns in these haunted locations and being loud and everything, of course, but this way they do it is they kind of took a mix of the lockdown thing, and then with Nick Groff and Katrina, the show they were doing, the Paranormal Lockdown, where they're sleeping in different areas and filming themselves. These guys do it.
Oh, they do? Yeah. Okay. So I've seen a couple episodes of Paranormal Lockdown too, so I get
so
that.
So that's what they do in this one, where they're sleeping in different locations that are supposed to have a lot of activity, and they have a camera running on them while they're sleeping, and then you're hearing stuff, and they're overreacting to stuff. But they're funny. They are kind of funny because they're young, but early 20s, mid 20s young.
Yeah, they're pretty young compared to us.
Compared to our old asses. But what was funny was after we took the picture with them.
Yeah, we hijacked them as they were walking through because both days their line was huge.
Long as shit.
It was the longest line. They had lines longer than Josh Gates and everybody else.
And the Ghost
Brothers, Kindred Spirits, this Destination Fear, longest line out of Kindred Spirits, like I said, and Ghost.
A lot of people were trying to see these kids.
Yeah, they had the longest line.
I did not give a shit to go in that line at all.
I didn't either. I had noticed
that. As they were coming by, I'm all, "You guys, come over here. Picture time." They're all, "Hell yeah!"
And it's funny because after the picture's done, you yell out, "Can I get an
oh yeah?" I didn't. I kind of had an idea that maybe they would, and I heard somebody say something like, "Oh yeah," they not in that way. So I was like, "Can I get an oh yeah?"
And then the girl, and like one of the other people in their group, all of us at the same time were like, "Oh yeah!"
But it's like it was faint. It was like faint because they were posing for a picture.
Yeah, because like right after they took a picture with us, like someone else like popped in and wanted to get a picture, and so as they're taking the picture
and doing it under their breath. And then they turned around laughing their ass off.
They thought it was hilarious.
Oh, that was a good one. Oh,
that was great. You know what's funny about the Dakota? I know his name.
Because you're a fan now.
Because I'm a fan now. Well, he's a fan of us, so I got to know. I got to know the fans' names.
You got to know who your fans are.
Yeah. So, my friend Raven actually a couple years back had actually did a reading for Dakota. With another team that she used to be involved in. They kind of introduced him to Dakota, or introduced her, and she did a reading for them. And in that reading, I think she had mentioned that his life was going to be changing soon. And this is before he was on TV. So pretty much everything that Raven had told him in the reading, he had confirmed with her, and this is years later, everything she's told him was spot on and everything happened. So awesome. It was kind of cool. Like, it was really cool for her to hear that from him, that like, hey, you know, everything that you told me was going to happen happened. And he was like, I guess he was grateful for the reading that he received from her.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah, it was really cool. So I kind of pointed out, like, when we were all getting the picture, I'm like, yeah, I'm friends with Raven. I was name dropping to these people.
Why would you need to?
I was name dropping. I was name dropping to people I don't even know what they do, but they should have known us because we're the EVP podcast. Exactly. But I wasn't thinking clearly.
And I didn't see anything. I didn't even stop and talk to John Zaffis, really.
No, I just went up to him, I'm like, hey, do you remember me? And he's like, kinda. And I'm like, Utah? And he's like, I'm like, we kidnapped you and had you on our podcast. He's like, oh yeah. And then he just looked down at his book or whatever the hell he was doing. And that was the end of the conversation. I'm like, peace.
Yeah, I was just like, hey, John, take a picture with me real quick.
You know who else was really cool that was there? That was kind of weird that he was there? I know he did a paranormal show at one point. I don't remember his name. Chad, like
Fast and Furious.
Yeah, Fast and Furious. He played Jesse in Fast and Furious. And you started telling about some made-up conversation that never happened.
Because it was between me and Paul, not me and you. And
he's like, hey, we had a Mandela effect moment. And I'm like, the hell we did? Mandela effect doesn't exist?
And then like, how did we have a... Then how did we... Then I'm like bringing up the whole conversation that we never had. And like, I don't know what you're talking about because I agree with you. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, you're telling Chad like this whole thing. Like we couldn't decide what happened to you in the movie. Like, did you just disappear and did you die? And I'm like looking at you and I'm like,
you're reciting the movie word for word.
I'm like, when the hell did we have this conversation? This is what happened in the movie. I'm like,
how would I not know as you're reciting verbatim the movie
exactly
script?
What happened?
I was like, holy shit.
Because I went up to him at first, like, I'm like, dude, we got to get a picture with him. And you're like, I don't know. And I'm like, he's wearing a pink bathrobe. We got to get a picture with him. And
well, what's weird is that he does not like advertise anything about the show he was on.
Yeah, it was all just Fast and Furious.
It was just all Fast and
Furious. You look
stuff.
At his table, he had like little models of the Jetta that he drove, and I walked up to him. That's how we started the conversation. I'm like, love the Jetta. It was the best car in the show. And you know, that's when you told him about the whole Mandela effect thing. I'm like, no. Like, he drove off. They have him like when they're at the house talking. He drives up, he gets out, and he's like, Dom, I'm so sorry.
I messed up.
He's like, I messed up. Tell me what to do. And then Johnny Tran drives by and shoots him. And then I started talking about, like, you know, the scene where he's like, I said it was a joint, and he's like, man, I wish it was. It was a cigarette. So, like, just me saying it was a joint, he knew exactly what scene I was talking about. It's where, like, you know, Paul Walker's talking to him, and he's like, I got the ADD thing, and I think he corrects him. He's like, you know, I got that attention deficit disorder thing, and he's like, you know, that shit, and he's like, but there's just something about the engines that relaxes me and calms me down, and he was just like, yep, that's the line. And I mean, it's not the exact line, but yeah, I mean, I think his character was really cool in the movie. He was like the techie guy, and I'm always kind of like, I like the techie guys in movies. I like the smart guys that like do the computer stuff.
But I'm so surprised he doesn't have anything like showing, because they did capture a couple pieces of really good evidence on that show.
Yeah, they did.
And
I don't remember the name of the show. I remember seeing the one clip where he like freaks out, and
there's that one, and then there's one where it has like a full body apparatus. I don't know. I think it was a full body apparition that showed up and walked across like an empty room.
Oh, okay.
Like there's a doorway, and this camera's just facing towards it, and you see something walk past the doorway.
Is that the one where he's like in the little like prison or whatever?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've seen that one.
Yeah, because it was viral, and I'm surprised he doesn't have that on a loop, like showing that.
His whole.
He has nothing showing anything about the paranormal show he was on. He's just like, what? No, why?
But I mean, he was really cool. He was fun to talk to.
Yeah, he was. He was
I think
very
he was the
animated.
last person we talked to.
He was the last person
because we went back to like talk to Susan Slaughter and get a picture with her, but she was eating a banana. So we're like, we're just gonna let her eat, and then we left. And then we went to...
Because we had an agenda to meet.
We did. We had to be...
A personal invite.
Yes, from our good friend, Zach
Mr. Baggins.
Invited us to go back to the Haunted Museum.
Which we obliged.
And yeah, we were more than welcome. We were more than happy to do. And I don't know about you, but there were some rooms that changed and were different from when I went on the tour back in August. There was already stuff that changed in 4 months.
There was didn't look like too much had changed.
Just that one room was what really stood out to me because they had taken out the Lucy doll or whatever her name was that had the real human hair and moved her to the end of the exhibit. They had removed the Hitler painting that even Zach said he refused to ever touch again, and it turned into an Al Capone room.
That's right. That was different in that rug. Yeah, so there was stuff from Al Capone in this one room. What was different for me was because things were different from the first time I did the tour to the time that DVO and I did the investigation there.
Yeah.
There was no like tour given before the investigation, so a lot of the things that had changed from the first time I went, I didn't have any like explanation of what they were or any background to them. We were just investigating. This time I was able to learn about those new things.
One of the things I did notice that was different in the Wyatt Earp room and like the Wild West room that wasn't there back in August, and he didn't even talk about it. I had to ask him about it. There was a gavel on the wall, and I'm like, "What's the deal with this?" Because I didn't remember it being there, and it was I can't remember the judge's name, but the dude had sentenced over like 160 people to death, and they had the guy's gavel.
Nice.
But then there was the Al Capone room, and then some of the experiences we had. I don't know if you had many experiences, but the first one I remember is when we were in the basement. We bought the REP passes, so we got the extra stuff that other people didn't get. Mm-hmm. But we went into the basement, and down there they have Bela Lugosi's mirror.
Right.
And then they have like a little pentagram on the floor because apparently back in the day, like people conducted like satanic rituals there. And so we're down there, and it's the three of us, our friend that was with us, and then this other couple that had bought it. So it was just the 5 of us out of the 12 that had REP passes. And we went down first. The other couple was behind me. So it was you and our friend, and then me, and then the other couple. And as we're doing the loop and coming back, because it's just you walk down, do a loop, come back. There's an actual spirit box going. They tell you not to interact with it or talk to it. Just listen to see if you can hear anything. And so as we're coming back, I hear the woman say something like asking her boyfriend or husband.
Well, I hear it talk the moment because I was first walking in there.
Yeah.
And I hear it talking like as I'm walking in. And as I walk in, it stopped. And then as I turned around and came back out, you guys were coming in and it started talking again.
Yeah, as I was just walking past the spirit box, I hear it say, "Are you okay?" I just heard, "You okay?" And then our friend said, "Are you okay?" And then after that, I heard like the other couple, like they started saying something, and it just had me a little concerned because I wasn't sure what was going on. And I turned to look at them, and out of the corner of my eye, I see this white face pop up right in between, because like it was you and our friend, and both of your backs were turned to me. And out of the corner of my eye, I see this face like staring at me, like right in my face. And I turn real quick, and it's gone. And when we get back upstairs, and as I'm telling you, I'm like, I saw this face. Our friend, like I said, it was you, her, and then me, and there was no one in between me and her. When she looked into the Bela Lugosi mirror, there was someone standing in between me and her in the mirror.
And that would have been cool to see.
And that's that. Like, and she kind of mentioned that, like, as I was saying, like, I saw a face. She's like, yeah, there was someone in the mirror between us. So that just kind of confirmed that, like, I actually did see something.
Which is really cool that both of you had seen that.
And then
But the basement felt different.
It did feel different this time.
Because when I went down there for the investigation, it felt like dead. Like, it was just like...
See, and when I went in August, it was the same way. It didn't feel like there was anything in there. I didn't feel anything from the basement. And they talk it up how, like, people are always feeling nauseous and weird down there, and people usually have problems. And I didn't feel anything the first time.
Me neither. I was like, there ain't shit. Like, they did something down there to, like, block whatever the hell.
Yeah, so when we got back up the stairs, I noticed the other couple, like the guy who was having a hard time with stairs, and he just seemed a little out of sorts. And it's funny because I actually bought this organite crystal at the convention earlier that day that was designed specifically for protection. And the guy just seemed like something wasn't right. So I just grabbed him by the wrist, and I'm like, here, hold this.
Kissed him.
And I kissed him
by the face.
Looked him lovingly in the eyes. And I'm like, everything's going to be all right, big boy. But I had him hold this organite crystal. And the tour guide was like, started freaking out on me. Excuse me, sir, what is that?
Well, yeah.
Is that a piece of paranormal equipment? And I'm like, no, it's a crystal. And I showed it to her, and she's like, oh. And I let the guy hold it for a minute, and I could see him, like, physically, like, his energy changing. You could just see his whole demeanor changing. So something did happen to him in the basement. I don't know what it was, but something had affected him. And he seemed fine the rest of that. After I gave him the crystal, he seemed fine the rest of the
tour. They were just kind of leery about doing all the extra stuff that came along with
They were a little scared after that, after the basement. They were kind of hesitant to do some of the extra stuff. What else? Well, when we did the circus room, we were going up the stairs to where the clowns are. Mm-hmm. Last time I was there, I was with Brandy, and she's afraid of clowns, so I just held her hand, she closed her eyes, and we sped through there. We were the first ones through. We just sped through there so she didn't have to be there. So this time I stayed back a little bit and was the last one to go up the stairs because I wanted to kind of see it a little bit more.
Right.
And I get to the top of the stairs, and I hear footsteps coming up the stairs behind me, and I'm thinking, like, what the crap? I'm the last one. Mm-hmm. I'm like, maybe one of the employees is coming up the stairs. I turn around, and there's nobody there. But, like, the footsteps stopped, and so I turned to go back up the next set of stairs, and I hear the footsteps coming up behind me again, and I was like, okay. And then when I get to the end of the hallway where the clowns are, and I felt something behind me, and I turn around, and there was one of the actors dressed as a clown, and I'm like, before I could say it, the tour guide's like, hey, you seem to have found a friend. And I was about to say the same damn thing.
That I was walking kind of fast because I was in the front of everybody, and so I didn't want to be holding everyone up. But I had already seen everything in there. But that was cool that you stayed back and heard that, though.
Yeah, I heard the footsteps coming up the stairs behind me. I'm like, that's interesting. Dybbuk box room, I didn't really feel anything other than our friend. Like, normally when I go in those rooms and stuff, when it comes to, like, haunted stuff or just paranormal in general, you want to go clockwise with stuff. Mm-hmm. Because that's more of the positive protection thing. If you're going counterclockwise, it's bad. So we had actually gone in, and it was funny because, like, I was, like, kind of putting the thought out there, like, I hadn't told you guys to go clockwise at all. Same with the other couple. I didn't tell anyone. I'm like, go clockwise around this. So there's some people that went in and went counterclockwise, but the people that I was, like, focusing my thoughts on all went clockwise. Like you, our friend, and the other couple that had the RDP passes all went clockwise. And our friend turned around for some reason. Like, again, I'm the last one in this room at this point because I was kind of making sure certain things happened the way they're supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. She turned around and started going counterclockwise, and I just put my arm out and stopped her, and I'm like, no. I'm like, you're not going back that way. You need to keep going clockwise. And when her and I talked about it after we left the room, she's like, thanks for doing that, because she felt this weird desire to turn and start going the other way. Like, she felt compelled to do it for some reason, and she's glad that I stopped her. I'm like, no, nothing good can happen from going counterclockwise. I'm like, go the right way. And she actually thanked me for it. So
yeah, that room didn't have a lot going on, but there is definitely stuff going on. Like, that definitely, there's some heavy stuff with that.
Yeah, the Dybbuk, they're going to listen to our podcast too, because we left the Dybbuk one of our cards.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. And then, we saw the rest of everything. We've talked about all the other things that were there.
The Lisa Shapiro thing was really cool seeing that again.
I was looking at more of her notes this time, and her notes looked Like she
They
had a
were
checklist.
Weird.
I mean, you had to know what each. I mean, only she knows what those mean.
Yeah.
And where
So I couldn't
like,
make any sense of anything.
it
she had
almost
written
seems
down.
like it was a checklist of as you're going interdimensional.
Yeah.
It seemed like there was ways that she was like grounding herself, getting herself prepared for these things coming, or like herself departing. It was pretty strange, but very interesting to read.
Yeah.
And kind of deciphering it yourself, like just trying to imagine what kind of shit was she into, like how far did she go, because that shit was, I mean, just reading those were pretty insane. I wish I would have read those off with the voice recorder when we were investigating, but it would have taken too
Yeah,
long. There's a
it
lot.
would've.
There was sheets, like there was
Yeah.
like 2 pages worth.
I think there was 3 actually.
Yeah,
Three-
and it's
three-
full.
three-
It's all
3
full.
things of notes.
It'd be too hard to read that.
A room that I was like kind of the most excited to go into, I didn't even go in.
Yeah.
As soon as I stepped in that room, I just had this weird feeling come over me, and I stepped right back out of the room. I really tried to go in that room, and I couldn't for whatever reason. And they're like, "Do you want to go in the room?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not going to go in the room." And I started walking away from the room, and I just started bawling. I'm getting the chills just talking about it right now. So this is the devil's chair.
Yeah, and I
This
wonder if something came out of that room,
This is
because
the
I
room-
wasn't feeling anything in there.
Yeah, this is the room where last time I talked about it, where I said in my mind's eye I saw the old man in the flannel shirt in the rocking chair. This is the room that as soon as they opened the trapdoor, Brandy ran out of the room. Yeah, I even told him, like one of the tour guides, I'm like, everyone keeps saying that the Dybbuk box is the most haunted object in the world, and I'm like, I'm going to disagree with you all. I think that Devil's Rocking Chair is the most haunted object in the world, or that you guys have here anyways. And they said, well, probably the most cursed, and really, I'm like, if I'm seeing a ghost in the chair, it's haunted in my opinion. But for whatever reason, this weird feeling of, that was like overwhelming fear and sadness coming from that room, and I couldn't handle it. And I had to go sit out, and like I'm sitting there crying, and everyone's like, the tour guide's like, you okay, do you need to go outside? I'm like, no, I'm not going outside, I'm fine.
I know, I'm like, he'll be fine in like a minute. Just let him.
And it's not the first time I've been affected. Like being an emotional empath, like sometimes that shit hits me, and it hits me hard.
Right.
And this time it did. Like I don't know what it was, why I couldn't go in the room, because like I stepped just over the threshold, and I just felt like I couldn't be in the room.
Well, I know there's like really nothing I can do besides you having that feeling, and it'll eventually leave.
Yeah.
So it's like, I know you got this.
It was just weird because like I had no issues last time I was in the room, other than I had this weird desire to touch the chair, and as soon as I realized that's what's going on, I left the room. But this time, like I couldn't.
I bet you the tour guide probably like, oh shit, what happened?
Yeah, I was like, again, the last one to go in the room, and as soon as I stepped foot in, I couldn't do it. And it was funny because like when we went outside, one of the tour guys that was outside was like, how did it go? And I just go, I cried like a bitch.
Well, a buddy of mine went there last week when the Utes game was there.
Yeah.
And he wasn't in there very long, and he was getting like very physically sick, and he had to leave. And he stepped out for a little while and felt better, and then tried to go back in again, and then instantly started hitting him back, like he was getting sick again. Left, and then the moment he left, he was fine again.
I'm almost wondering, like, that crystal that I had on me that was designed for protection, I'm almost wondering, like, had I not had that on me, would I have had the same reaction? Maybe that thing was, like, what was giving me the warning not to go in that room?
Could be.
I don't know, but it's a speculation that I have. Because it was just all weird how I got the crystal, because, like, I was walking around looking for a tote to put all of our stuff in, because we had accumulated a bunch of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't even paying attention to this booth. I walked right past the booth, and then all of a sudden I kind of felt the energy pull me back to the booth, and they had, like, a little copper pyramid there that they were doing energy sessions in. And the lady, like, literally just, she looks at me and she picks up that crystal and hands it to me, and she's like, here, hold this. And it was one of those where, like, I went to put it down, and I could tell it didn't want to be put down, so I ended up buying it.
Well, it was funny. So you were laying down getting this energy work done, and I'm walking up and down the aisles looking for your ass. And I'm looking for somebody, the tallest son of a bitch in here. Like, where the hell is he? And you're laying on the damn floor. And I'm like, he's gone. I need a leash for this guy.
Yeah, I just disappeared on you. Because we were walking around, and all of a sudden I'm just gone, and you're like, where the hell did he go?
And then you don't answer your phone. Like, you suck at having phones.
Yeah, I don't answer my phone while I'm getting energy work done.
Well, I wouldn't know that.
I know you didn't know that, but it was just like, yeah, we're all together, and then I'm like, oh, hey, check this. I'm like, squirrel, and then he was like, where the hell did you go?
I'm like, I think he's on the phone.
How do you lose the 6.5 foot guy? Like,
He's really tall. Like,
there was I don't know. We were so long, but there was the EVPS Elite Vegas Paranormal Society. They had 2 really cool haunted artifacts. They had the concentration camps. They had the German cup, and he was telling me about this cup that I have. I'll have to crop these up and put them up on the social media so you can read about the 2 items.
Yeah.
But they had the cup and the clarinet doll, and he was telling me about the cup. The way it's like stationed here, you can see it's like upside down. Like he's tried to hot glue it in different positions, and they said that like they've been at places and they hear like cracking and popping, and it's like the glue coming undone and the cup just like flying off the stand.
Really?
They said they had a bunch of cool interaction with the cup. Like it's been a couple times. It was like this being upside down like it is here, and I'll post these on social media so people can see it. But the cup being upside down, they said this is like the first way that they put it where there hasn't been any type of like spirit or anything trying to remove the cup from the display stand. And the clarinet doll, while we were talking to them, like you guys were talking to them, we spun the Ouija wheel of death that helps you summon up to 9 demons. I ended up with like 2 bracelets out of there from spinning the wheel.
I got a T-shirt.
You got a T-shirt, and I got 2 bracelets.
A size too small.
But it was funny because like we're all standing there. I was kind of looking at the cup, and then all of a sudden it was just like, boom, there's something going on with this doll. And I just walked past everybody. I'm like, tell me about the doll. And they told me how they acquired it. It was like at some thrift store or something like that. And they walk in and they're looking at the doll and they're like, what's the deal with the doll? And he's like, $20 and it's yours. Just take it. They're like, it's creeping everybody here out. And we're having weird stuff going on. And so the guy's just like, $20, it's yours. And so they bought it. And I picked up on it right away. I'm like, there's definitely energy about this. I'm like, there's possibly a spirit attached to it. And they told me about this doll, how like the history about the clarinet doll, and they had no idea what it was. It's made out of like recycled plastic, and they finally, like after a lot of research, they finally figured out where clarinet dolls come from. This one was like from the 60s, I guess, but it was something to do with in Africa. They gave it to expecting mothers. It was supposed to be a good luck charm that they give to their kids after they're born. They're not sure where this particular one came from, but they told me that they've had like different mediums and psychics and that look at the doll, and no one can get any like information about what's attached to the doll. They just kind of get like whispers and voices, but nothing like coherent that you can actually understand what they're saying. So I wanted to put this to the test. So I showed the picture to Raven, and she's like, that's haunted. And I'm like, I know this. That's why I'm showing it to you. Mm-hmm. And then the next day, this was Friday when we talked to them. Saturday, I went, I'm like, can I borrow you for 5 minutes? And I took her over to this doll. And it's funny because I didn't tell her anything about the doll. I just showed her the picture. I'm like, come check out this doll. And she starts describing what she's hearing. She's like, it's just like 3 people whispering. I can't make out what they're saying, but, talking about what she's hearing. And that's when the lady at the booth was just like, that's what I told you. Like, that's what everybody gets. So I thought that was kind of cool to have like that validation that like, yeah, that's actually what goes on with this doll. Like there's just random whispering. It doesn't feel like negative energy either. It's just they can't figure out what the spirits are trying to say that are attached to the doll.
I don't know either.
But Zach Baggins Museum.
So back to the
museum because I went off on a tangent. I'm sitting there talking to the tour guide. That one of the tour guides, because they have like 3 guides as you're going through. They have different sections they work. So I remember this tour guide I had from last time, and I was telling her, I'm like, yeah, you were my guide last time I was here, and she's like, oh, was I good? And I'm like, oh, you're the best. You're the coolest tour guide here. I was actually kind of disappointed I didn't get you to lead our group again this time. And she was like trying to picture where my tour and all that, and I told her, I'm like, Peggy's room. It's one of the haunted, like the demonic doll. It's another room that's got a life spirit box going. And as you go in, you're supposed to say, hi, Peggy. And as you're leaving, you say, goodbye, Peggy. If you don't, bad things are supposed to happen to you. So when I was back in August, when I went through, I was like the last one to come out, and I'm like, goodbye, Peggy. And as I'm coming out of the room, I hear on the spirit box, goodbye. And I get out of the room, and I looked at the tour guide, and I looked at Brandy, and I'm like, did that just, and they're both like, yep, it did say goodbye to you. And when I told the tour guide that, she's like, oh my God, she's like, I do remember you now. And so her and I started telling stories. I told her about my experience, what happened with the Devil's Chair, and she said, the last month or two, a lot of stuff has been going on in that room. Told me about this like weird spider-looking creature thing that she saw come crawling out of the room.
And as you're talking,
we're talking, I'm like so engrossed in this conversation.
And here comes Zach,
our best friend.
He comes walking up behind you, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up, Zach?" And he's like trying to hide from Tim because he's like, "Oh God."
Yeah, he had his hood, he had his hat down and his hood over, and he was like
he
trying
had
to
his baseball
hide
cap. He had his hood on, and he had a mask on, and he's trying to be all sneaky, and he's trying to hide from you.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's up, Zach?
What's up, Zach? Our friend's like, what's up, Zach? And he goes
walking in, and you're just still going on with your conversation. And like maybe 5 minutes later, then it got brought up.
Yeah, someone mentioned about Zach going in the building. And I'm like, when did this happen? Like when we came out of the gift shop, and they're like, no.
Moment when we said hi, Zach.
They're like, literally, like right now, it just happened. I'm like, are you shitting me?
Like,
so he literally walked right behind me.
I actually slapped you. I actually fucking hit your arm, and I said, that's Zach. And then you're just like, I don't know how many times you're just oblivious to everything around you when you're talking.
I was so enthralled in the conversation. Yeah, he walked right past me. I had no clue.
Yeah, you missed a lot of things.
I was pissed, actually. So I actually handed the tour guide one of the last business card I had on me. And I'm like, well, will you do me a favor? Will you tell Zach that he was, because she's like saying how he always does that, and where he tries to just kind of slip through because he doesn't want to talk to people or whatever. And I'm like, can you do me a favor? Tell him it worked. Hand him my business card and said, he fooled the EVP podcast. So I'm like, he'll find out anyways, because we'll talk about it on the show because he's a huge fan. But it was funny because like, I think when this happened, when he walked past me, it was probably when I was sitting there saying like, how we have this running joke on the show about how we always talk about.
No,
Zach
we had already.
It makes the story funnier, you jackass. I did mention it to her.
Yeah,
like, we have this ongoing joke where with Zach and a bunch of celebrities, how they're we're on a first name basis, and they're always calling us and talking to us, and they're big fans of the show. And she thought it was hilarious. I'm like, yeah,
because it's real.
Because it's real.
Because it really happened.
Well, we told her how, like, yeah, Zach personally invited us to come to the museum tonight. And
so here we are.
That's why we're here.
Do you guys have that on the guest list?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, like, when she was telling me about some of the experiences, I kind of looked at her and I'm like, can you sneak us back in there?
Right.
Because at this point, like, the tours, I think, were all over.
No, I think they were going to have
the flashlight.
They were going to do the flashlight investigation.
Yeah, the actual, like, tours were over. But, I think there was like maybe one group still in there behind us.
It could have been
doing the regular tour, because I don't remember seeing any of those people come out. But again, I was not aware of anything going on around me, so I could have seen an entire group.
Could have been a whole group behind you.
I mean, I could have had like a demon kick me in the balls, and I wouldn't have fucking.
You'd have been like, "Hold on, I'm talking."
I'm like, yeah, leave me alone.
Hold on,
right?
Demon. I'm in the middle of a conversation here.
Like, what do you need? Like,
you're acting like a child.
You'll have your turn.
It's not your turn yet.
Take a number.
That's what you. But yeah, that was pretty much our weekend, our ParaUnity weekend.
Yeah, and this is such a long episode.
Yeah, it's a really long episode, so we should probably end it.
Yeah, we should probably. I mean, there's so much that happened that we wanted to share it with y'all.
Well, it's still fresh in our minds.
Yeah, because we're gonna forget shit.
We always do.
Yeah,
and then we'll be done recording. Oh yeah, you know what I forgot about?
Making stuff up. We've gotten so much crap from people for it's like, why didn't you mention this? And we're just like, we meant to.
Like so we had all the intentions.
We wanted to make sure everything got put down on tape.
Yeah.
Because people still use it.
Yeah, tape.
It's all caught on tape.
Well, all right. I think we should call it there before we start rambling on for another half hour.
We will. And we're already we're an hour and 45 minutes in, so
I think we're good.
We're good.
Well, thanks for listening or watching. We appreciate y'all, and stay listening and stay watching, and tell all your celebrity friends. Because Ghosty don't play that.
Peace out, butterflies. I was waiting for you to say it. I'm like, I can't say mine until you say yours.
This is the EVP Podcast.